Celeste was halfway down the aisle in the gown I had sewn, when the mate bond inside me twisted like a blade. At the altar, Carol, the man the moon goddess had marked for me, waited to marry my identical twin. Then the cathedral changed. Alpha King Ronan stood among the shadows, ignoring the bride, the groom, and every powerful wolf in the room. His pale gold eyes fixed on me. Slowly, deliberately, the king inclined his head. No one understood why. Neither did I. Chapter 1. The Disposable Daughter. On the morning of Celeste's wedding, I woke with the taste of copper in my mouth. It was not blood, although I had bitten through my lip often enough during the past 6 months to recognize that flavor. This was different. It tasted like every word I had swallowed, every scream I had forced back down, until silence had become another organ inside my body. I pushed myself upright in the narrow servant's bed. After Celeste announced her engagement, my parents had moved me out of the bedroom my twin and I had shared since birth. Celeste needed more space for her wedding gifts, Mother had explained. She had not looked directly at me while saying it. Her gaze had passed over me as if I were a mark on a window she intended to clean later. The wedding gown hung from the back of my door. Ivory silk, silver thread, 4 months of work completed by candlelight while the rest of the estate slept. I had embroidered wolves running beneath a full moon across the bodice and train. Every stitch honored the shifting magic that flowed through our people like silver fire, through everyone except me. I pressed my hand against my stomach, over the hollow place where my wolf should have lived. At 23, I had never shifted. I had never felt bones reshape beneath my skin, never experienced the sacred transformation that marked a shifter as complete in the eyes of our kind. The healers called it shifting nullification syndrome, rare, incurable, unexplained. Everyone else used a simpler word, broken. Broken wolves did not receive true mates. At least, that was what I had always been told. Apparently, the moon goddess had a cruel sense of humor. 6 months earlier, during the harvest festival, I had felt the bond awaken. It struck without warning, a violent snap of recognition that stole the air from my lungs and rewrote every cell in my body. Across the bonfire stood Carol Blackwater, son of the Southern Pax Beta. His dark hair caught the firelight, his eyes resembled winter storms, and when he smiled, for 3 perfect heartbeats, I believed that smile belonged to me, my mate. My soul recognized him before my mind could understand what was happening. Then Celeste stepped into his line of sight. Carol's expression changed. The same recognition that had passed through me appeared on his face, only his attention settled on my twin. Celeste, who could shift into a silver wolf so beautiful that people stopped to stare. Celeste, who possessed everything I lacked, including, somehow, the man the moon goddess had marked as mine. Raina. My mother's voice came through the door. She did not knock anymore. The seamstress needs you in the preparation room. Celeste's train requires another adjustment. Of course it did. I dressed in the plain gray gown I wore for errands and household work. Its color made me disappear into stone corridors and crowded rooms, which was precisely why Mother had chosen it for me. The cathedral's preparation room smelled of jasmine, hot wax, and carefully concealed lies. Celeste stood on a raised platform before a full-length mirror. The gown I had created fitted her perfectly. Women surrounded her, adjusting lace, smoothing silk, praising every detail. Celeste had accepted credit for the neckline I designed, and the silver lace I had stitched during nights when sleep felt like surrender. She saw me in the mirror. For a second, guilt flickered across her face. Perhaps it was pity. Then her expression softened into the serene smile she had learned to wear whenever other people were watching. Raina, thank the goddess. The train keeps catching. Can you fix it? You always know exactly what to do. Because I had made it. I knew every hidden seam, every fold, and every place where the silk resisted movement. I knelt behind her and held several pins between my lips. You look beautiful, I said. That was what a loving sister was supposed to say. Celeste laughed softly for the bridesmaids. I'm so nervous. What if I trip? What if I forget the vows? What if I say something foolish? What if you are marrying my mate while both of us pretend we do not know it? I secured another section of the train. You'll be perfect, I told her. You always are. That, at least, was true. The door opened. My father entered with the quiet authority of a man accustomed to having entire rooms submit to him. Alpha Theron Gates led the Northern Pack and had spent his life treating duty as if it were sacred law. He seemed to have aged 10 years since Celeste's engagement. An alliance with the Southern Pack was an honor, but whispers had spread through both territories. Twins were supposed to share blood, strength, and destiny. Some claimed that Celeste's beauty and power should have elevated both daughters. Instead, my failure to shift had lowered the perceived value of our family. Father looked at me kneeling on the floor. His jaw tightened. Celeste, the ceremony begins in an hour. Finish preparing. Then he turned to me. Raina, come with me. Celeste's hand moved as though she meant to reach for me, but she stopped before touching my shoulder. I followed Father through the cathedral's rear corridors. We passed the kitchens, where servants prepared the wedding feast, and the gallery, where members of several packs were already gathering. Father took me into his private study and shut the door. The room smelled of leather, dust, and old memories. Alpha King Ronan will arrive within the hour, he said. I stared at him. The Alpha King? Ronan ruled every recognized pack from his mountain capital. Most wolves lived and died without ever standing in the same room as him. He is attending the wedding? Yes. He has also requested a private audience with our family before the ceremony. Cold unease slid along my spine. Why? Father finally faced me. His eyes held an exhaustion I had never seen before. It was the exhaustion of a man who had convinced himself that a brutal decision was necessary. The king has no living mate and no heir. He has been searching for a suitable queen for 5 years. He paused. He knows about your condition. The room seemed to tilt. What are you saying? He is considering a political marriage. An alliance with the crown would protect our territory and raise our standing among every pack. Father's hands flexed at his sides. He does not require a queen who can shift. He needs someone educated, loyal, and familiar with duty. Someone broken enough to be grateful. I am not marrying a stranger, I said. My voice cracked despite my effort to control it. Father, I cannot. You can, and you will if he chooses you. The command in his tone pressed against me. It was not quite the full force of an alpha order, but it carried the same warning. This family has protected you, fed you, and cared for you despite your limitations. Celeste is fulfilling her responsibility by creating an alliance with the Southern Pack. This will be yours. Despite your limitations, this will be yours. Not a choice, a debt. What happens if I refuse? Father's expression did not change. After the wedding, you will leave this pack. I have arranged a position for you in the Western Territories as a scribe in their historical archives. It is a generous opportunity, considering your circumstances. Considering I was broken. Considering I could not shift. Considering I had apparently exhausted the value of my family's patience. Father moved toward the door. The king will meet us in the East Chapel in 20 minutes. Make yourself presentable. He left me alone. I stood among the shelves where I had learned pack history as a child. I looked at the desk where Father had once praised my memory and taught me the boundaries of our lands. Through the window, I could see the training grounds where Celeste had completed her first shift. That had been the day our lives began moving in different directions. I looked down at my gray dress, my plain hands, and the body everyone believed had betrayed me. Within an hour, Celeste would marry the man whose soul had answered mine. At the same time, I would be inspected by a king as if I were livestock whose only remaining value came from my family name. The copper taste returned. I had spent my life being good, quiet, helpful, grateful for every scrap of affection offered to me. This was my reward. Exile or ownership. I crossed to the window and rested my forehead against the cold glass. Guests were arriving below in elegant clothing, laughing and greeting one another as they came to celebrate a love story that had consumed mine. Somewhere in the cathedral, Celeste was probably wondering when I would return to finish her dress. She expected me to stand beside her and smile while my heart was buried alive. Someone knocked. "Miss Raina?" A servant called through the door. "The Alpha King has arrived early. Your father requests your presence immediately." I closed my eyes. Goodness had never made me worthy. It had only made me convenient. "I'm coming." I turned away from the window and walked toward the East Chapel. Chapter 2. The King's Bargain. The East Chapel was smaller than the main cathedral. It had been designed for private vows, family ceremonies, and confessions never meant to reach the outside world. Autumn sunlight passed through stained glass and scattered across the floor in broken pieces of crimson and gold. Father stood near the altar with military stiffness. Mother waited beside him, twisting her fingers together as if anxiety had finally cracked her practiced composure. Between them stood Alpha King Ronan. Paintings and whispered descriptions had not prepared me for the reality of him. He was taller than every shifter I had known. His broad shoulders suggested violence restrained by discipline rather than gentleness. Black hair was pulled away from a face made of sharp lines, high cheekbones, a hard jaw, and a mouth that looked unfamiliar with smiling. His eyes stopped me. They were pale gold, almost colorless, like winter sunlight trapped beneath ice. Wolf eyes in a human face. They found me the instant I entered. His gaze moved over me with unsettling precision. He did not appear cruel, but neither did he attempt kindness. He looked at me as if he were measuring the value of a weapon he had not decided whether to use. "Your Majesty." I began the formal curtsy I had been taught as a child. "I am honored." "Don't." His voice was low and rough. "I have heard enough lies today." I stopped halfway down and slowly straightened. Ronan approached. With every step, the chapel seemed to become smaller. His scent reached me. Pine, snow, and cold mountain air. Something ancient in my instincts responded with equal warnings of danger and safety. "Look at me." It was not a request. I raised my eyes. He studied my face so intently that I felt as if he were reading words carved into my bones. "You are the broken daughter." The statement held no mockery. From anyone else, the words would have cut. From him, they sounded like a neutral fact. "Yes, Your Majesty." My voice remained steadier than I felt. "I cannot shift. I have no wolf." "Why?" The question startled me. People rarely asked why. They either pitied me, whispered about me, or decided the answer did not matter. I don't know. The healers say my body is healthy. The magic simply never appeared. "And your twin shifts beautifully." Something shifted behind his gold eyes. That must be difficult. The truth of it struck harder than cruelty would have. No one acknowledged the cost of living besides Celeste. They expected me to celebrate her gifts without mourning my absence of them. "It is what it is," I answered carefully. Ronan's mouth moved slightly. It was not a smile, but it came close. "Your father tells me you have studied pack law, history, diplomacy, strategy, and 6 languages. I had more time than most. Because I had never trained with the other wolves, I had not learned to hunt in shifted form or run beneath the moon. Books do not require claws," I added. "No," Ronan said. "They require patience and intelligence. Both are rarer." He turned toward my parents. "Leave us." Mother made a small, protesting sound. "Your Majesty, propriety requires." "I am the king. In this palace, in this chapel, and in every recognized territory, I decide what propriety requires." He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. "Go." Father took Mother's arm and led her from the room. The closing door sounded final. I was alone with the most powerful shifter alive. Ronan walked toward one of the stained glass windows and turned his back to me. I will speak directly, Raina Gates. I suspect you are tired of people hiding their intentions behind gentle words. Yes, Your Majesty. I require a queen. I do not require another mate. His shoulders became rigid. I had one. She died 3 years ago while giving birth. Our son died with her. The air grew heavy. I am sorry, I said. Are you? He glanced at me. Or are you saying what you were trained to say because you believe it will please me? It felt like a test. I had already lost my family, my mate, and my future. I saw little purpose in lying. Both. His eyebrows lifted. I am sorry, because losing someone you love must be agony. But I am also saying what is socially expected, because I have spent my life smoothing difficult situations and making powerful people comfortable. I held his gaze. Is that direct enough? For the first time, Ronan smiled. The expression changed his face completely. He appeared almost human, although no less dangerous. Better. He turned fully toward me. I do not want love, Raina. I had it, and losing it destroyed me. I will not permit anything to possess that much power over me again. His voice became controlled and practical. What I need is a partner, someone intelligent enough to understand court politics, strategic enough to manage alliances, and strong enough to survive the attention attached to my crown. And someone who cannot shift, I said. Surprise crossed his face. Then he answered honestly. Yes. He moved closer. The council will underestimate you. They will see someone weak, controllable, and irrelevant. He stopped a few steps away. But you are not weak. You are something more useful. What? Adaptable. The word entered a place inside me no one else had ever reached. You survived in a world that repeatedly told you that you had no value. You learned. You observed. You found other ways to become capable. His eyes held mine. You are still standing. No one had ever described my survival as strength. What exactly are you offering? A permanent political marriage. He answered without hesitation. You would become queen of every pack. You would have wealth, protection, authority, and access to resources you have been denied because of an accident of biology. He continued before I could speak. In exchange, you fulfill the public responsibilities of the position. You attend state functions, support the crown, assist in ruling, and provide heirs if possible. My stomach tightened. If it is not possible, then we address the matter later. Adoption and appointed succession both exist. Producing children is not a condition of the agreement. His voice lowered. What I require from you is loyalty. Real loyalty, not the performance of it. He looked toward the closed door. I have enough people who bow while planning how to weaken me. I need someone who tells me the truth, especially when that truth is unpleasant. My thoughts collided. This was the alliance Father wanted. It would elevate our pack beyond anything Celeste's marriage could achieve. It was also a cage. A vast, beautiful, powerful cage. Why me? The question escaped before caution could stop it. You could choose anyone, a woman who can shift, an alpha's daughter, someone beautiful. Your sister is beautiful, Ronan interrupted. She is also marrying another man in less than half an hour. He watched me closely. Beauty is easy to find. Intelligence combined with desperation is considerably rarer. The word hung between us. You believe I am desperate. I believe your father gave you a choice between marrying me and exile. His expression did not change. He was explicit. Heat rose beneath my skin. So yes, you are desperate. So am I. Ronan crossed to the altar and placed one hand on the stone. The council has grown increasingly bold. Without a mate or heir, they question the stability of the throne. Some have begun discussing whether I remain fit to rule. His fingers tightened. I must secure my position before those whispers become challenges. He was using my desperation, but he was not pretending otherwise. That honesty felt more merciful than every soft lie my family had given me. What happened to your mate? I asked. If I may. His jaw locked. For several heartbeats, I expected him to refuse. Julie was kind, he said at last. Gentle. Everything the court believed a Luna and Queen should be. His gaze moved somewhere beyond the chapel. The pregnancy was dangerous from the beginning. The healers warned that carrying a shifter child could kill her. I told her we could wait. I told her we could find another way. He swallowed. She refused. She believed giving me an heir mattered more than her life. And she died doing what she thought was her duty, I said softly. The child died as well. The pain in his voice had been buried beneath 3 years of control, but I could still hear it. That is why you do not want love, I said, because love failed you. Because love is a luxury a king cannot always afford. He faced me again. I am offering you a transaction, clear terms, no false promises, no pretending fate brought us together. I will not tell you that passion will grow, or that the moon goddess intended this. He stepped closer. It is a strategic alliance. It should have felt cold. Instead, it felt like the first clean truth I had received in months. I need to understand what you expect from me. Ask. In public, must I pretend to be a devoted wife? Yes, the court must see unity. And in private? In private, you will be exactly who you are. I have no use for masks in my own rooms. His pale eyes searched mine. I will not love you, Raina, but I will respect you, I will protect you, and I will give you a life where no one measures your worth by your ability to shift. It was the kindest offer I had ever received, delivered in the least romantic words imaginable. The cathedral bells began to ring. Celeste's ceremony would start soon. I need your answer, Ronan said. I pictured my twin in the gown I had made. I saw Carol looking at her with the devotion that should have belonged to me. I remembered father's command, mother's disappointment, and the servants' room where my belongings had been pushed aside. I imagined exile in the Western Territories, a quiet life cataloging the histories of people who would never know my name. Then I looked at the king before me. He had loved, lost, and turned himself into stone to survive. He was not offering affection. He was offering space to exist without apology. I have conditions. One of Ronan's eyebrows lifted. You are negotiating with a king. You said you wanted someone honest enough to tell you uncomfortable truths. I raised my chin. That begins now. Silence passed between us. Then he nodded. I'm listening. I want private rooms, space that belongs to me, where I can close the door and be alone. Agreed. I want full access to the royal archives, not merely the public records. Agreed. And I want autonomy. I will perform my duties, but I will not be your puppet. I will speak when I disagree with you, even if you dislike what I say. The chapel became very quiet. For one terrible moment, I thought I had asked too much. Then Ronan smiled. This smile was sharp, approving, and entirely real. Done. He extended his hand. We will announce the engagement after your sister's ceremony. She should be allowed her moment. By tonight, however, the court will know you are my future queen. I stared at his hand. Taking it meant abandoning the last pieces of the life I understood. My family. The mate who had never truly been mine. The quiet identity I had carried for 23 years. It meant becoming someone I could not yet imagine. I placed my hand in his. His grip was warm and firm. One more condition, I said. His fingers remained around mine. I expect the truth from you. If you are using me in a political maneuver, tell me. If circumstances change, tell me. I will not live inside another family of secrets. Agreed. He looked down at our joined hands. I expect the same. If you are unhappy, or something between us is failing, you will tell me. His gaze returned to mine. We may never love one another, Raina, but we will be honest. That is more than many marriages possess. The bells rang again. We should go, he said. Your sister's wedding is about to begin. I withdrew my hand and immediately noticed the absence of his warmth. Your Majesty. Ronin. I blinked. When we are alone, call me Ronin. The familiarity felt more intimate than his proposal. Ronin, I said carefully. Thank you for not lying to me. Thank you for not lying to yourself. He walked to the door, then stopped. For whatever it is worth, your family made a serious mistake when they decided you were disposable. His eyes held mine. Their loss will become my advantage. He left. I stood alone among stained glass saints and the ghost of the future I had just chosen. My hand moved over the place where my wolf should have lived. You are not weak. You are adaptable. Perhaps surviving without a wolf had made me stronger than anyone understood. The door opened again. Mother entered with anxiety drawn across her face. Well? She demanded. What did he say? I looked at the woman who had carried me, raised me, and slowly stopped seeing me when I failed to become what she expected. He asked me to marry him. Mother's breath caught. I accepted. Raina, this is extraordinary. The honor to our pack. Is it? She stopped. I walked past her. I have to finish helping Celeste. She will be walking down the aisle soon. We need to discuss arrangements. Later, I continued through the corridor toward the preparation room. With each step, the old Raina, the silent, grateful, convenient daughter, seemed to fall away. By nightfall, I would be betrothed to a king. Everything would change. I did not yet know whether the transformation would save me or destroy what remained. Chapter 3. The Wedding and the Vow. The main cathedral had become something taken from a dream, or a nightmare. It depended entirely on where a person stood. White roses climbed every pillar. Their perfume filled the air so heavily that breathing felt like drowning in sweetness. Hundreds of candles burned in silver holders, throwing restless shadows across the vaulted ceiling. The pews overflowed with wolves dressed in their finest clothes. Excitement moved through the crowd like a living thing. I stood in the doorway of the preparation room and watched Celeste study herself in the mirror. She looked flawless. The gown followed the shape of her body before opening into a dramatic train. Her silver blonde hair had been braided with pearls, and her eyes shone with anticipation. She looked exactly as every bride was expected to look. Loved, hopeful, whole. Raina. She turned. Her smile weakened when she saw me. What happened? You look different. I had agreed to marry a king. In less than an hour, I would watch her marry my mate. Everything was wrong, and nothing would ever return to what it had been. Nothing happened, I said. I'm emotional. It is your wedding day. Celeste crossed the room and took my hands. We had shared a womb, a childhood, and every secret until the day she shifted and I did not. I know this is difficult for you, she whispered. Carol, the bond, all of it. I never meant. Don't. I squeezed her hands before releasing them. This is not about what either of us wanted. The moon goddess made her choice. Who are we to question it? It was a graceful answer. It tasted like ash. Tears gathered in Celeste's eyes. You are the best sister anyone could have. I don't deserve you. A bitter voice inside me answered that she was right. I ignored it. You deserve happiness. And I will have it, she said, glancing at her reflection. Carol is a good man. Yes. She hesitated. Sometimes I catch him looking at you. My heart contracted. He has this expression I cannot understand. Do you think he regrets? Celeste stopped herself. Never mind. I'm being paranoid. She was not paranoid. A mate bond did not disappear simply because it had become inconvenient. It remained like the pain of a missing limb, sensed even when no one acknowledged it. You are nervous, I told her. That is normal. I adjusted a loose strand of her hair. But Celeste, he chose you. He chooses you every day. Choice can be more powerful than any bond the moon goddess creates. It might have been the most generous lie I had ever spoken. Celeste wrapped her arms around me. I love you, Raina. No matter what happens, you know that, don't you? I held her tightly and tried to memorize the feeling. After that day, our lives would separate in ways neither of us could predict. I love you too. Despite everything, I meant it. A knock sounded at the door. Ladies, it is time. The ceremony was beautiful, in the way funerals could be beautiful, carefully arranged, emotionally devastating, and impossible to escape. I stood in the first row beside Mother. Celeste appeared at the rear of the cathedral, with Father's arm beneath hers. Every guest rose. Whispers followed her down the aisle. So beautiful. A perfect match. The goddess truly blessed them. At the altar, Carol waited in dark blue ceremonial robes. His hair had been pulled away from his face, revealing features handsome enough to make the room stare. But it was not his appearance that hurt me. It was the way his entire body turned toward Celeste, like a compass finding north. His eyes followed every step she took with something dangerously close to worship. He loved her. That was the cruelest part. Not only had the mate bond turned toward her instead of me, but real love had grown between them. They were not merely bound by magic. They had chosen one another. I was happy for them. I was devastated for myself. Both truths existed at the same time, tearing through me from opposite directions. Celeste reached the altar. Father lifted her veil and kissed her forehead before placing her hand in Carol's. For less than a heartbeat, Carol looked past my sister. His eyes found mine. The bond flickered. A ghost of recognition passed between us, and his expression broke. I'm sorry. The apology was there even though he did not speak. I gave him the smallest nod. I know. I forgive you. Then he turned back to Celeste, and the moment vanished. The priest began the ceremony. His voice carried through the cathedral, but after the first few ritual phrases, the words became meaningless sounds. I searched for the numbness I had built during the past 6 months. It had protected me through every fitting, every discussion, and every celebration. That day, it failed. Because at the back of the cathedral stood Alpha King Ronan. He had changed into ceremonial robes of black and silver. Even among hundreds of wolves, his presence drew the room toward him. Guests glanced in his direction and quickly looked away, too intimidated to stare openly. Ronan was not watching the bride. He was not watching the groom. He was watching me. I stood in my gray dress among silk, jewels, and flowers, holding myself together through stubbornness alone. Our eyes met. What passed between us was not attraction. I was not foolish enough to name it that. It was recognition. A silent acknowledgement that we had formed an agreement and neither of us intended to retreat. Ronan inclined his head. The movement was slight but deliberate. I returned it. A contract sealed across a crowded cathedral. I now pronounce you mated and married, bound beneath the moon goddess and recognized by pack law. The priest's words pulled me back. Carol placed his hands around Celeste's face and kissed her. It was tender and full of everything a first kiss between mates should contain. The cathedral erupted in cheers. I clapped with everyone else. My twin glowed with the happiness that might once have been mine. It is finished, I thought. At last it is finished. I was wrong. The ceremony was not the most difficult part. The reception was. The pack's great hall had been decorated with more flowers, candles, and silver than I had ever seen in one place. Tables bent beneath platters of food. Musicians played traditional mating songs while couples danced with the careless joy of people celebrating love. I found a table in a quiet corner and made myself small. From there, I could watch without participating. Celeste and Carol moved through the guests like the sun and moon. She laughed at something he whispered. He pulled her into a dance, and everyone watched as though they were witnessing a legend come to life. They make an impressive couple. I startled. Ronan had appeared beside me without a sound. He held 2 glasses of champagne and offered one. Your Majesty. I accepted it. I did not expect you to remain for the reception. Ronan, he corrected quietly, and I remained because we have an announcement to make. He glanced toward Celeste and Carol. We should probably allow them their first dance before we eclipse the entire celebration. Guilt moved through me. Our announcement will ruin her happiness. Will it? Ronan drank from his glass. She has married the man she loves. If she cares for you as much as everyone claims, she should be pleased that you have also secured a future. She will believe I was forced. Were you? I looked up at him. He had offered escape wrapped inside obligation, freedom tied to the weight of a crown. I don't know, I admitted. Does it count as force when the alternative is exile? When staying would mean watching my mate build a life with my sister while I disappear inside a servant's room? No. His answer came without hesitation. That is survival. There is no shame in choosing to survive. The words settled the frantic guilt inside me. Thank you. For what? For not pretending this is romantic. For not telling me I should feel grateful or honored. You should feel neither. He set down his glass. I am asking you to marry a stranger, abandon your home, face a hostile court, and become queen of territories you have never visited. His expression remained serious. Your willingness to attempt it proves your strength. It does not prove my generosity. Before I could answer, Father's voice rose over the hall. Honored guests, family, and friends, may I have your attention? The music stopped. Conversation faded. Father stood at the head table with his glass raised. My hands began trembling. I put down the champagne before I dropped it. Ronan's hand came to the small of my back. The touch was barely there, but it steadied me. Breathe, he murmured. You have endured worse. I was not certain that I had. Today we celebrate the union of my daughter Celeste and Carol Blackwater, Father announced. However, our family has received a second blessing worthy of recognition. Celeste looked at Carol in confusion. He shook his head. Father's eyes found me. For one brief second, his expression softened. Perhaps it was pride, perhaps sadness. My daughter Raina has also been favored by extraordinary fortune. Alpha King Ronan has honored our family and our pack by requesting her hand in marriage. Silence struck the hall. Every face turned. I stood in my plain gray dress beside the king in black and silver. Shock spread through the crowd, followed by calculation and disbelief. The broken daughter? Someone whispered. She cannot even shift. Ronan stepped forward. The whispers died immediately. I have chosen Raina Gates to become my queen. His voice filled the hall with authority no one dared challenge. She possesses the intelligence, courage, and character required for the position. Any person who questions my choice also questions my judgment. The threat beneath the words was unmistakable. Furthermore, Raina accepted my proposal of her own free will. He looked directly at me. I want that understood. This is her decision. It is not her father's order, and it is not coercion from the crown. Ronan extended his hand. Every eye in the hall fixed on it. Even then, he gave me the opportunity to refuse. I could walk away. I could accept exile, vanish into the Western territories, and live a quiet life no one would remember. Or I could step toward the king. I thought of Celeste in the gown I had made, of Carol's apology at the altar, of father's disappointment, mother's careful neglect, and the servant's bed that had become mine. Then I remembered Ronan's words. You are not weak. You are adaptable. I took his hand. A gasp traveled through the room. Ronan drew me to his side. To new beginnings, he declared. Then he lowered his voice for me alone. You did well. Applause rose, mixed with urgent whispers. Father's face shone with political triumph. Mother looked divided between happiness and fear. Celeste had gone pale. Her hand gripped Carol's arm as she stared at me. Her expression held confusion, guilt, surprise, and perhaps relief. Now she no longer had to worry about what would become of me. She shaped a silent question with her lips. Are you certain? I nodded. For the first time in years, I was. Carol leaned toward her and whispered something. Together, the newly married couple crossed the hall toward the newly betrothed king and future queen. Congratulations, Carol said. His voice was strained but sincere. He offered his hand to Ronan. Ronan accepted it with the calm confidence of a man who feared no one. And congratulations to both of you, Ronan replied. May your union strengthen your families and your packs. The formal words sat between them, carefully avoiding the strange tangle of fate connecting all four of us. Celeste abandoned protocol and threw her arms around me. Raina, is this truly what you want? I hugged her back. Yes. But you hardly know him. Becoming queen will be dangerous. The pressure. I know. I drew back and held her shoulders. But I cannot remain here, Celeste. Not anymore. This is my opportunity to become something other than the twin who failed to shift. You were never only that to me. I know. And I did. Celeste had tried to love me, even when she could not understand what her life had cost mine. But I need to become more than that to myself. Her eyes filled. After a moment she nodded. Then I am happy for you, truly. She glanced at Ronan, who had turned to speak privately with Carol. He seems intense. He is. I almost smiled. But he is honest. At the moment, honesty means more to me than romance. Celeste squeezed my hands before returning to Carol's side. They fit together perfectly, mates in bond, choice, and love. I stood beside a king I had met only hours earlier, preparing to rule a kingdom I had never seen. The musicians began another song. Couples returned to the dance floor, and the celebration resumed beneath a growing storm of gossip. We should dance, Ronan said. I stared at him. Why? Because the court expects it. I am not good at dancing. Neither am I. He offered his hand. We will endure it together. I let him lead me onto the floor. Every person in the room watched. Ronan's hand settled at my waist. I placed mine on his shoulder, and we began the formal steps of a waltz. Relax, he murmured. You are holding yourself as though someone is about to attack you. It feels as though someone might. I stumbled. Everyone is staring. Let them. He guided me through a turn with unexpected grace. Tomorrow, they will discuss something else. Next week, a newer scandal will replace us. His eyes held mine. And within a month, you will be queen. They will all bow then. The certainty in his voice frightened me more than the watching crowd. We moved in silence for several measures. Around us, couples laughed and turned beneath the lights. Raina, Ronan said, I need you to understand something. I looked into his winter gold eyes. I meant what I promised in the chapel. This arrangement will not be easy, but I will honor every condition. Even my autonomy? Especially that. His hand tightened slightly at my waist. I have spent years surrounded by people who tell me whatever they think I want to hear. I need someone willing to tell me when I am behaving like an idiot. Despite the pain and strangeness of the day, I laughed. Then you selected wisely, Your Majesty. I have extensive experience identifying foolish behavior. His answering smile reached his eyes. Good. I look forward to your observations. The song ended. We stepped apart. Nothing had become romantic. No sudden bond had formed between us. Yet one of the walls separating two strangers had developed a small crack. Perhaps this marriage would not be entirely terrible. My cousin Mira hurried through the crowd toward us. Raina, is it true? You are actually marrying the Alpha King? Yes. The answer still felt impossible. When is the wedding? Will you live at Stonehaven? Will you return to visit? What will? Ronan cleared his throat. Perhaps the arrangements should be discussed somewhere private. He was offering me an escape. I accepted it immediately. Excuse us, Mira. We need to speak with my future husband's advisors. Ronan guided me through a side door and into a smaller drawing room. When the heavy doors shut, the noise of the reception became a distant murmur. I sank against the back of a chair. How long before we are allowed to leave? Eager to escape already? You cannot imagine. I can. He poured 2 glasses of water. Court ceremonies are exhausting. Weddings are particularly unbearable. I accepted the water. When will our wedding happen? 3 weeks. I nearly choked. 3 weeks? The council will demand a full state ceremony. It will be tedious but politically necessary. He leaned against the table. Tomorrow morning, you will travel with me to the capital. You need to learn the palace, meet the council, and understand the alliances before the ceremony. 21 days to transform from the disposable daughter into queen. That is not much time. No, but you are intelligent and adaptable. He said the word as if it were an established truth. You will manage. My father already agreed to this? Before the announcement. Of course he did. Bitterness entered my voice. Ronan set down his glass. Raina, your father made a tactical decision. I do not believe he understands what he handed to me. What did he hand you? Someone far more valuable than he realizes. Because I read books? Because you survived. Ronan moved closer. Many people treated the way you were treated would have become cruel, bitter, or self-destructive. You studied instead. You learned languages, law, and strategy. You made yourself useful in every way still available to you. His expression was direct. That requires a particular kind of strength. The recognition in his words broke through a wall I had built against hope. I wanted to be prepared, I admitted, for whatever happened next. I never expected this. Neither did I. Pain briefly moved through his eyes. But this is where we are. Outside, the music rose again. The celebration continued for mates, destiny, and romantic promises. Inside that quiet room, I stood before a king who offered truth instead of romance, and respect instead of passion. It felt like more than I had ever been given. We should return, he said, before someone notices our absence and creates a scandal. Yes. I did not move. Ronan? Yes? Thank you for not making me feel like merchandise, even though this is a transaction. His expression softened. We are both part of the transaction, Raina. The difference is that neither of us is pretending otherwise. He offered his arm. I placed my hand on it. Together, we returned to the celebration and the future we had chosen. For one more night, I would survive being Celeste's shadow. After that, I would step into the light as someone new. Even if everyone watching mistook my choice for surrender. Chapter 4. The Journey North. Dawn arrived too soon, and not soon enough. I spent the night packing the few possessions I would take to the capital. The task did not require much time. Most of my belongings were books. I added several plain dresses and a wooden box containing letters Mother had written when I was young, back when she still told me I was special, before that word became a polite substitute for defective. Celeste and Carol had left the reception early and disappeared into the honeymoon suite Mother had decorated with silk and far too many rose petals. I watched them leave with a numbness containing several different emotions. Relief that I no longer had to smile. Grief sharp enough to feel physical. And beneath both, a growing sense that none of this could possibly be real. By the following night, I would be inside the royal palace. In 3 weeks, I would become queen. The girl who could not shift would hold the highest position any female wolf could possess. A quiet knock interrupted my thoughts. Raina, may I come in? Celeste. The door is open. She entered in her nightgown with her hair loose around her shoulders. Without wedding jewels or carefully arranged makeup, she looked younger. She looked like the sister who had climbed into my bed during storms and whispered secrets beneath blankets before the world taught us to compare ourselves. I couldn't sleep, she said. She sat on the edge of my narrow bed. I kept thinking about you leaving. You are married now, you have Carol. You probably will not notice my absence. Do not say that. Her voice broke. Do not speak as though you can be replaced. You are my twin. Half of me is leaving today. Guilt turned inside my stomach. None of this had been entirely her fault. She had not chosen for the bond to turn toward her. She had not created the laws and traditions that measured a woman's worth by her wolf. "I'm sorry," I said. "That was unfair. It was honest." Celeste pulled her knees toward her chest, a habit from childhood. "I need to know that you are truly willing to marry Ronan. If you are only doing this to run away—" "What would I be running from?" I interrupted. "My comfortable servant's room? My family's admiration? My future as the twin everyone worries about?" Celeste flinched. "We never treated you as a failure. Didn't you?" I sat beside her. "Celeste, I love you. But you have no idea what it is like to watch every person around you transform into something magnificent, while you remain unchanged." Tears slipped down her face. "You don't know what it feels like when people look through you as if you are furniture. You have never heard our parents discuss what should be done with you, instead of asking what you want. I tried to help you." "I know." I took her hand. "And sometimes your help made it worse, because it reminded everyone that I needed to be helped." Celeste began crying harder. "But marrying Ronan is my decision. It may be cold. It may be strategic. It is not a love match." I held her gaze. "But it is mine." She remained quiet for a long moment. "He seems hard," she finally said. "Like stone. Perhaps I need stone." My voice softened. "Perhaps I am tired of gentle people who care about me but never truly choose me." Celeste understood. Her face crumpled. "I am sorry. I never wanted to hurt you." "I know." That was the tragedy. No one involved had intended cruelty. Fate had simply been indifferent. "But you did hurt me," I said. "Remaining here and watching you build a life with Carol would hurt me every day for the rest of mine." I squeezed her fingers. "This gives me the chance to become something other than your shadow." "You were never my shadow." "Then why did everyone treat me as if I were?" She could not answer. We sat together in silence, holding hands as we had when we were children. The invisible bond between us remained, but it had begun to stretch. "Will you write to me?" she asked. "Tell me you are safe." "Yes." "And may I visit after you settle?" "If I am able to arrange it." I was not certain I would ever want to return to the estate that had reduced me to so little. A firm knock sounded. "Raina, the king's carriage is ready." Father's voice. Celeste embraced me with desperate force. "I love you. Wherever you go and whatever happens, you are my sister. Nothing can change that. Nothing can change it." I held her tightly. "I love you too." When we separated, I wiped her tears with my thumb. "Be happy, Celeste. You deserve that." "So do you." I did not know whether I believed her, but I nodded. Celeste left. I stood alone with one small bag, and the terrible feeling that I was about to step from the edge of a cliff. "You are adaptable. You survived this. You will survive whatever follows." I lifted my bag and left the room without looking back. The carriage in the courtyard was less ostentatious than I expected. Black lacquered wood gleamed beneath silver fittings. 4 midnight-colored horses stamped against the stones, their breath clouding the cold morning air. My family had gathered to watch me leave. Father appeared pleased. Mother pressed a handkerchief to her eyes. Aunts, uncles, cousins, and servants crowded the courtyard. The entire pack seemed eager to see the departure of the broken daughter who had somehow captured a king. Ronan waited beside the carriage in traveling clothes of gray and black. Without ceremonial robes, he looked more human, but the authority surrounding him did not diminish. His eyes found mine. Something in them softened. "Ready?" "As ready as I will ever be." He took my bag and passed it to a servant. Then he offered his hand. Before stepping into the carriage, I turned toward my family. Father approached. "Raina, you have brought great honor to this pack." He hesitated. "I am proud of you." Now he was proud. Not when I mastered 6 languages. Not when I memorized pack law or studied treaties until dawn. Not when I survived 23 years of being called broken. He became proud when my marriage made me politically useful. Thank you, Father. There was nothing else to say. Mother rushed forward and embraced me in a cloud of perfume. Write often. Take care of yourself. She held my face between her hands. And Raina, please try to be happy. The plea surprised me. Perhaps she cared in the only limited way she understood. I will try. Celeste and Carol stood at the edge of the crowd. She raised one hand, her face swollen from crying. Carol remained behind her. When his eyes met mine, the mate bond flickered for the final time. Goodbye. I'm sorry. I gave him one small nod containing acknowledgement, forgiveness, and release. Then I climbed into the carriage. Ronan entered after me and took the opposite seat. The door closed. The carriage began moving. Through the window, I watched the estate become smaller until it disappeared beyond a curve in the road. My pack, my family, and the entire life I had known vanished behind trees. Only the forest and an uncertain future remained. Are you all right? Ronan asked. I turned from the window. Ask me again in 3 weeks. A small smile appeared. Fair. The carriage interior was warm and comfortable. Velvet covered the seats. Lanterns swung with the movement, and a folded blanket rested in one corner. Ronan opened a leather-bound book and began reading. He did not force conversation. After the wedding, the announcement, and my departure, I appreciated the silence. We traveled for nearly an hour before curiosity overcame exhaustion. How long will the journey take? 3 days by carriage, 2 if we force the horses, but there is no reason to make the trip unpleasant. 3 days enclosed with a man I barely knew. 3 days to understand the king I was expected to marry. Tell me about the palace, I said. What should I expect? Ronan closed his book. It is large enough to feel overwhelming. Parts of it are more than 1,000 years old. The palace was carved into the mountain rather than built on top of it. He shifted slightly. The public rooms are meant to intimidate visiting leaders. Your private quarters will be in the royal wing. They are separate from mine but connected through a shared study. Separate? I promised you private space. His eyes remained steady. Your rooms belong to you. Lock the doors if you wish. I will not enter without permission. Relief came so quickly that it embarrassed me. Thank you. Do not thank me for basic respect. He leaned back. The palace staff will be curious. Some will welcome you. Others will fear change. Because I cannot shift. Because you are young, unknown, and unable to shift. You are also marrying a king who has lived alone since his mate died. They will not know what to make of you. Should I be afraid? No. Cautious, perhaps, he continued. Margaret, the head housekeeper, is efficient and loyal. I instructed her to help you adjust. The court is more complicated. How complicated? The council assumes I chose you because you can be controlled. Anger sparked inside me. And what do you believe? I believe the council is foolish. He said it as though discussing the weather. Their error benefits us. Allow them to underestimate you. Learn the palace, the people, and their motives. When you are prepared, show them exactly how wrong they were. You want me to spy for you? I want you to recognize political danger before it cuts your throat. His answer was blunt. Some people will pretend friendship because they want access to me. Others will attack you because weakening you weakens the crown. Whom should I trust? Yourself first. He considered. Trust me later, if I earn it. Approach everyone else carefully. The advice sounded harsh. It also sounded honest. What will the council do? They will not openly oppose the marriage. They would not dare. Instead, they will delay your requests, overlook your instructions, and test how much disrespect you tolerate. How much should I tolerate? None. A sharp smile appeared. You will be their queen. Command them accordingly. The idea terrified and thrilled me. I imagined ordering counselors who had served generations of kings. I don't know how to command anyone. You will learn. Ronan leaned forward. You possess something most rulers do not. You remember what it feels like to have no power. You know what dismissal and humiliation do to a person. His gaze became intent. Use that knowledge. It may make you a better ruler than any of them expect. The carriage crossed a rough section of road and jolted us. I looked out at the deepening forest. May I ask about Julie? His expression closed, but he nodded. Did you love her because of the bond, or because of who she was? Ronan was silent so long that I thought he would not answer. Both. He looked through the window. The bond was immediate. The same recognition you felt with Carol. His voice grew distant. But love developed over time. Julie was patient when I was difficult, gentle when I became hard. She believed I could become better than I was. A trace of memory entered his eyes. And when I was with her, I tried. I am sorry. It happened 3 years ago. I learned to function around the absence. He looked at me. That is why I cannot repeat it. A bond creates vulnerability. Vulnerability is dangerous for a king. When she died, did you truly consider leaving the throne? I nearly abdicated. His answer came quietly. For a time, the pain made ruling impossible, but abandoning the crown would have dishonored what she believed she died to protect. So you built walls. I became what survival required. Understanding settled between us. We had used different forms of armor against similar wounds. I will not try to break your walls, I said. I am not worried that you will. His tone softened slightly. I am only making the terms clear. He paused. If you need help, conversation, or support, I can give you those things. I may not offer romantic love, but I can offer partnership, honesty, and respect. That is enough. To my surprise, I meant it. I spent my life waiting to be chosen because of a mate bond. Perhaps being chosen for my mind is better. Perhaps. Ronan reopened his book. We will discover that together. We stopped for lunch at a small country inn. Ronan had reserved a private room, protecting us from the whispers that would have spread if travelers recognized him. Bread, cheese, meat, and fruit covered the table. I picked at the food. You need to eat, Ronan said. You barely touched breakfast. I am not hungry. You are nervous. Yesterday morning, I was pinning my sister's wedding gown. Today I am traveling north to become queen. I forced myself to chew a piece of bread. It does not feel real. It rarely does. He took a drink of water. When I first wore the crown after my father's death, I expected someone to tell me there had been a mistake. I felt too young and entirely unprepared. Did you know what to do? Not at all. A dry expression crossed his face. I made mistakes. I still make them. Kingship is not something a person masters. It is something he survives while attempting not to damage too many lives. The admission was unexpectedly vulnerable. You are trying to comfort me. I am trying to be truthful. You demanded that, remember? I remember. I managed another bite. It is strange that you share so much when we hardly know one another. You are going to be my wife and queen. If we cannot be honest, this becomes another political performance. His expression hardened. I already have enough of those. Then may I ask one more difficult question? Always. Why have you not searched for another true mate? 3 years have passed. The moon goddess might offer another bond. Ronan placed his cup on the table with deliberate control. I do not want another bond. Pain sharpened every word. The bond is supposed to be sacred and singular. When Julie died, I begged the goddess to let me follow her. Instead, I woke each morning feeling the place where the bond had been torn away. His jaw tightened. If another bond appeared, I would reject it. I will not survive loving and losing again. Understanding came with a small, unexpected wound. You selected me because you believe there can never be a bond between us. Yes. He did not soften it. I selected you because you are capable and intelligent. I also selected you because you cannot shift, and therefore the moon goddess will not bind us. His eyes met mine. We are safe from one another. Safe from love. Safe from devastation. I repeated the words quietly. There are worse foundations for marriage. Far worse. He stood and offered his hand. We should continue before the weather changes. I accepted it. During the afternoon, I found myself studying him. Ronan had loved completely and lost catastrophically. He had built walls high enough to contain every dangerous emotion. He believed I was safe because fate would never connect us. We were both damaged. Perhaps damaged things could still serve a purpose. Perhaps two wounded people could build something stable without pretending to be whole. Outside the window, farms disappeared. Wilderness took their place. The forest became darker and older as we traveled toward the mountains. I closed my eyes and pictured myself beside Ronan in a council chamber, wearing a crown and commanding wolves who believed I was weak. The thought should have filled me only with fear. Instead, for the first time in months, hope appeared. We arrived at a fortified way station after sunset. The building served important travelers and was protected by guards who discouraged questions. Ronan arranged adjoining bedrooms connected by a shared sitting room. Even there, he kept his promise about privacy. A servant unpacked my few belongings. My plain dresses looked lost inside an enormous wardrobe. My books were placed beside fresh flowers on the bedside table. It was the finest room I had ever occupied. I felt like an intruder. A knock sounded at the connecting door. "Raina, may I enter?" "Yes." Ronan came in wearing a simple shirt and dark trousers. Without formal clothing, he appeared younger. He carried 2 glasses of wine. "You look overwhelmed. Your powers of observation are remarkable." The dry answer escaped before I could stop it. "Forgive me." Ronan smiled. "That was honest. Do not apologize." I accepted the wine and sat by the window. Stars appeared over the mountains, brighter than those above my father's estate. Ronan took the chair opposite mine. For several minutes we watched the night settle without speaking. "Tomorrow evening we will reach Stonehaven," he said. "There will be a formal reception." I assumed there would be. "The council will inspect everything you say and do." I assumed that too. "I will remain with you. If anyone crosses a line, or if you need to leave, say the word." The protective offer surprised me. "Why?" "Because you are mine now." He spoke without possessiveness, as though stating a responsibility. "You accepted this agreement. That makes your safety my obligation." The words settled over me with unexpected warmth. "Thank you. That means more than you understand." We returned to silence, but it no longer felt uncomfortable. A rhythm had begun forming between us. When exhaustion finally became too heavy, I set down my glass. I should sleep. Yes, tomorrow will be difficult. Ronan stood at the connecting door. Then he stopped. "Raina, you handled today well. Leaving your family and facing this journey could not have been easy. Proposing to a stranger and making her queen could not have been easy either." His smile was brief. "No. Do you truly believe this will work?" "I believe we will manage." "Why?" "Because we are survivors." He placed one hand on the door. "Survivors find a way." He closed it behind him. I remained alone in the beautiful room with my books, flowers, and a frightening sense that I might have made the right decision. I changed for bed and stared at the ceiling. The next day, I would meet the royal court. I would begin learning what a queen was supposed to be. But that night, I remained Raina, the girl who could not shift, who had watched her twin marry her mate, and who had chosen stone over softness. For the first time, that seemed sufficient. Chapter 5: The Palace of Wolves. Stonehaven revealed itself gradually, as if the mountains had kept it hidden on purpose. The carriage climbed from dawn onward. Dense forest gave way to granite cliffs and patches of snow untouched by autumn. When we rounded the final turn, Ronan pointed toward the window. "Look." I leaned closer to the glass and forgot how to breathe. The palace had not been built into the mountain. It was part of the mountain. Towers carved from living stone rose toward the clouds. Ancient patterns covered their surfaces, some decorative, others perhaps forgotten runes. Narrow bridges stretched between peaks and delicate arches that seemed impossible. Dark windows watched our approach. Wolves had been carved everywhere. They hunted above doorways, howled from towers, slept along walls, and fought across enormous stone panels. The entire fortress existed to remind every visitor who ruled the shifter world. It is, I searched for the right word. Terrifying? Ronan offered. Yes. It was designed to be. As the carriage approached, I saw guards along the walls, silver armor reflecting daylight. Royal banners moved in the wind, each bearing a silver wolf against black. Dozens of people waited near the main gate. My stomach tightened. Is that the reception? No, the reception is tonight. Ronan glanced outside. These are members of the household staff who are curious about their future queen. What am I expected to do? Nothing false. You do not have to wave or smile. And if the honest version of me is terrified, then at least you are honest. He leaned toward me. Listen carefully, Raina. These people have watched monarchs rise and fall. They have witnessed assassinations, political madness, brilliance, and war. His gaze did not waver. They do not expect perfection, they expect strength. You have already shown that by surviving everything that brought you here. The iron gates opened with a deep groan. The carriage entered a courtyard large enough to contain my family's entire estate several times over. The crowd separated, creating a path toward the entrance. An elderly woman dressed in severe black waited at the top of the steps, her spine as straight as a blade. Ronan left the carriage first and offered his hand. I accepted it. The instant my feet touched the courtyard, the whispers began. So young. She cannot shift. Did you hear what happened at the wedding? She is pretty enough. The king has lost his mind. Ronan's fingers tightened around mine. Then his voice crossed the courtyard. This is Raina Gates, my betrothed. In 3 weeks, she will become your queen. Every whisper stopped. You will treat her with the respect her position requires. Anyone who fails will answer directly to me. His eyes swept over the gathered staff. Am I understood? Every head bowed. It was not welcome. It was obedience created by fear. For the moment, that would have to be enough. The elderly woman approached. Her face carried decades of lines, but her eyes remained sharp. Your Majesty. She curtsied to Ronan before turning toward me. Miss Gates, I am Margaret, head of the royal household. Welcome to Stonehaven Palace. Thank you. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. I prepared the Queen's suite according to His Majesty's instructions. I will show you there before tonight's reception. Margaret glanced at Ronan. Your council has requested an immediate audience concerning the northern border. Of course they have. His jaw tightened. He turned to me. Go with Margaret. Rest and become familiar with your rooms. I will find you before the reception and explain which members of the court require particular caution. He was leaving me alone in a fortress full of strangers. I had known our responsibilities would separate us, but my chest still tightened. Ronan noticed. You survived your family, he said quietly. You will survive the palace. He glanced toward Margaret. She is trustworthy. Listen to her. Then he walked away. Even his departure commanded attention. Margaret motioned toward the entrance. This way, Miss Gates. I followed her beneath hundreds of watching eyes. Inside, the palace was as intimidating as its exterior. We crossed corridors broad enough for carriages. Tapestries showed ancient battles, legendary kings, and wolves tearing through enemies. Servants lowered their eyes as we passed, although curiosity followed us. The palace has 4 primary wings, Margaret explained without slowing. The east contains kitchens and staff quarters. The west holds guest rooms and lesser council chambers. The southern wing contains the throne room, great hall, and public reception spaces. We climbed a spiral staircase cut directly into stone. The northern wing is private. The royal family's apartments are located there. At the top, portraits of former kings and queens lined the corridor. Their painted eyes seemed to follow me. The king's rooms are at the far end, Margaret continued. Your suite is connected to his through a shared study. You will have a private sitting room, bedroom, bathing chamber, and library. That is more than I expected. You need space in which to work. Margaret's severe expression softened almost imperceptibly. You will also need to learn quickly. The court will not forgive ignorance simply because you are new. We stopped before oak doors carved with running wolves. Margaret pushed them open. The Queen's suite, the sitting room alone, was larger than every room I had ever called mine. Tall windows looked across mountain valleys and distant forests. Furniture in silver and deep blue formed quiet spaces for reading and conversation. Bookshelves covered one wall, already filled with histories, laws, and guides to palace protocol. Wolves appeared in every detail, carved into wood, worked into metal, and stitched into fabric. The bedroom is through those doors. The bathing chamber is beyond it. Margaret pointed toward another entrance. That door leads to the shared study. It can be opened from either side, but your side has a privacy bolt. I crossed to the windows. From that height, rivers and forests looked like part of a painted map. How long have you served here? 53 years. Margaret's reflection appeared beside mine. I entered the palace as a maid. I have served 4 kings, 3 queens, and witnessed enough court intrigue to fill several histories. I turned. What do you think of me? The question came before I could stop it. Margaret studied me. I think you are terrified, unprepared, and working very hard to conceal both facts. Her honesty almost made me smile. I think the king selected you for reasons neither the council nor you fully understand. She paused. And I think that if you are careful and intelligent, you may survive. That is not encouraging. I am not employed to encourage you. I am employed to keep the royal household functioning. She moved toward the door. The reception begins at 8. Attendants will come at 7. The king selected clothing for you. Margaret? She stopped. May I ask about Julie? For the first time, real grief crossed her face. The king's late mate was kind. She was gentle in a palace that rarely rewards gentleness. Margaret's voice tightened. She made His Majesty laugh. She reminded him that duty was not the only reason to remain alive. And her death changed him. It destroyed part of him. Margaret looked directly at me. You are not here to replace her. I know. Good. The court will compare you to her constantly. Julie could shift. She came from a powerful bloodline. Everyone adored her. Her gaze sharpened. You will always be found lacking by those who need you to fail. What do I possess that she did not? You already know how to survive being underestimated. Margaret opened the door. Use it. After she left, I stood inside the enormous room and felt expectations settle over me like silk-lined chains. I crossed to the library and selected a history of the royal court. 4 hours remained before the reception. It was time to stop thinking like the disposable daughter. At 7, 3 attendants arrived. They moved with coordinated efficiency, washing and arranging my hair before dressing me in a gown of midnight blue. Silver embroidery caught the light like stars. The fitted sleeves and modest neckline made the dress elegant without appearing delicate. A crescent moon pendant rested at my throat. When the attendants stepped away, the woman in the mirror looked like someone who belonged in Stonehaven, someone capable of standing beside a king. The image was convincing enough to frighten me. You look beautiful, one attendant said. The court will not know what to do with you. I hoped she was right. A knock sounded. Raina, may I enter? Yes. Ronan stepped inside. His formal clothing matched mine, black and silver, severe and deliberate. A narrow silver circlet rested across his brow. His expression shifted when he saw me. Something wrong? I asked. No. He searched for a word. You look appropriate. I stared at him. That may be the least romantic compliment ever offered to a future bride. His lips moved. I promised honesty. You did. Ronan looked at me again. You look like a queen. That is what matters tonight. The attendants withdrew. He walked around me slowly, assessing details with careful attention. The council will search for signs of fear. They will look for uncertainty and weakness. So I should avoid fainting or running from the room. I am serious. So am I. He stopped before me. These people are predators. They will test how much disrespect you accept before I interfere. I am not an alpha. I cannot establish dominance through a wolf. Then use your mind. His voice became firm. You know law, history, and strategy. If someone attempts to belittle you, answer with such perfect courtesy that the response becomes an insult. He held my gaze. If they question your authority, cite laws they have forgotten. Make underestimating you painful. What happens if I fail? The question sounded smaller than I intended. You will not. The certainty in his answer shocked me. Because failure would send you back to your father's estate. You would return to the room where they hid you and watch your sister live the future that might have been yours. His eyes hardened. You would walk through fire before allowing that. He was right. Tell me who presents the greatest danger. Ronan handed me a sheet of parchment. 12 names had been written in precise script. Lord Hadrian, head of the council, ambitious and traditional. Lady Seraphine, wealthy and influential. Commander Thane, loyal but suspicious of change. Lord Voss, young, clever, and dangerous. He is the one to watch, Ronan said, indicating Voss's name. He wanted me to marry a member of his family. Your presence destroyed those plans. How will he attack? Indirectly. He will ask questions designed to expose ignorance. He will disguise insults as concern. And how should I answer? Confidently. If he hides an insult, show that you understood it and chose not to be wounded. Ronan's expression became cold. If he crosses the line, I will deal with him, but you should have the first opportunity. I folded the parchment and placed it inside a hidden pocket. What else? Rumors will spread about us. Do not waste strength attempting to control gossip. What must I avoid? Public disagreement between us. The court must see unity. If you oppose one of my decisions, challenge me privately. It was practical. This marriage required strategy more than affection. I understand. Ronan studied my hands. You are trembling. I told you I am afraid. Good. Fear keeps a person alert. He offered his arm. Ready? No. I placed my hand on him. But I will go anyway. The sounds of music and conversation reached us before we entered the great hall. 2 guards opened the doors. The entire room fell silent. Hundreds of wolves turned toward us. The ceiling disappeared into shadow above ancient weapons and ceremonial pelts. At the far end stood 2 thrones. One belonged to the king. The other waited beneath the invisible weight of every queen who had occupied it before me. Ronan covered my hand with his. Then he addressed the room. Lords and ladies of the court, members of the council, and honored representatives. I present Raina Gates, my betrothed. His voice carried without effort. In 3 weeks, she will be crowned queen of all Pax. You will welcome and respect her accordingly. Applause followed. It was correct, controlled, and empty of warmth. Then the court bowed. A wave of submission moved across the hall. I straightened my spine and locked every sign of fear behind my face. You survived being underestimated. Use it. Ronan led me forward. The games began. Chapter 6. The Test of Wolves. Lord Hadrian approached first. He appeared to be near 60, with silver threaded through his dark hair and the controlled bearing of a man who had spent decades influencing kings. His smile was warm enough to appear sincere and calculated enough to mean nothing. Your Majesty. He bowed to Ronan, then turned toward me. Miss Gates, what an unexpected honor. Unexpected. The word carried skepticism, surprise, and disapproval beneath polished courtesy. Lord Hadrian, the honor is mine. His Majesty speaks highly of the council. Does he? One eyebrow rose. How generous. Hadrian studied me. What knowledge do you possess of governing multiple packs, Miss Gates? There was the first test. I know enough to understand that governance cannot be learned from books alone. I smiled calmly. However, I have studied territorial law, treaty history, trade agreements, and conflict resolution since childhood. I held his gaze. I also know that experience such as yours cannot be replaced by study. I expect I will learn a great deal from the council, provided its members are willing to advise rather than simply judge. A new calculation entered Hadrian's eyes. I had admitted inexperience without accepting incompetence. I had praised him while warning that I would recognize obstruction. Indeed, he said. Perhaps this partnership will be interesting. His second bow was deeper. Ronan's hand briefly touched my back. Well handled. One finished, I murmured. How many remain? Too many. They arrived in waves. Lady Seraphine asked pointed questions about the modest standing of my family. I answered that bloodline could provide opportunity, but character determined what a person did with it. To disagree, she would have needed to insult herself. Commander Thane was more direct. Can you defend yourself, Miss Gates? Queens face dangers beyond court gossip. I began training in hand-to-hand combat at 12. That was true. Without a wolf, I had learned to protect myself by other means. I may not have claws, Commander, but I possess a knife and know how to use it. I smiled. Would you like a demonstration? His stern expression developed a crack of respect. Perhaps another time. Between introductions, Ronan remained close. A small pressure at my elbow guided me toward potential allies. A hand at my back redirected me from known troublemakers. It felt like a complicated dance in which he knew the steps, and I concentrated on not falling. You are doing better than I expected, he murmured near the refreshment table. Such praise. I am serious. They expected you to become flustered. I lifted a glass of wine to conceal my shaking fingers. I am terrified. I know, but they do not. His attention moved across the crowd. Voss is approaching. My stomach tightened. Lord Voss was in his 30s, handsome in a sharp, dangerous way. Charm covered his cruelty like silk over a blade. He approached slowly, enjoying the anticipation. His bow to Ronan was technically correct but somehow insulting. Your Majesty. Then he looked at me. Miss Gates, you look lovely. Blue suits you, although I confess I expected something more traditional for an occasion of this importance. The insult was carefully hidden. He was suggesting that I did not understand court clothing or my new position. How observant of you, Lord Voss. I smiled pleasantly. I selected blue because it represents wisdom and self-control. Both qualities should be useful here. My gaze moved to his scarlet coat. May I ask what your choice of red symbolizes? Aggression or merely confidence in your sense of fashion? His smile tightened. Nearby conversations became quieter. Such a sharp tongue, Voss said. One might suspect you are compensating for deficiencies elsewhere. There it was. I felt Ronan's hand move protectively toward my waist, but I stepped forward. This challenge belonged to me. If you mean my inability to shift, speak directly. My tone remained calm. I place little value on cowardly implications disguised as manners. The surrounding silence deepened. Yes, Lord Voss, I cannot shift. That difference required me to develop abilities many wolves neglect. Diplomacy, languages, strategy, and scholarship. I met his eyes. I may not possess claws. I do possess a mind. I suspect that is what His Majesty values. Is it? Voss turned toward Ronan. Forgive my boldness, Your Majesty, but many at court wonder what a king gains from marrying someone who cannot offer the traditional strength of a Luna. His voice was falsely respectful. There were surely more suitable candidates. He had forced Ronan to defend the marriage before the entire court. The air around the king became cold. When Ronan answered, his voice carried absolute authority. "Lord Voss, I will explain once, using language simple enough for you to understand." Voss's face changed. Ronan stepped toward him. "I am your king. My choices do not require your approval." The surrounding wolves lowered their eyes. "I chose Raina because she possesses intelligence, courage, discipline, and strategic judgment. Those qualities matter more to me than brute force." Ronan's pale gold gaze pinned Voss in place. "But since you remain curious, I will be explicit. I gain a partner who understands what it means to be underestimated and knows how to turn that into an advantage." He continued without raising his voice. "I gain someone who studied pack law while many privileged heirs wasted their education. I gain a queen who will rule through reason rather than intimidation." Ronan took one final step closer. "Do you have another question regarding my judgment?" Voss swallowed. "Or shall we discuss your failures in managing the eastern border? Failures which suggest that you may be the person attempting to compensate for serious deficiencies." A collective breath moved through the court. Color drained from Voss's face before returning in a flush of humiliation. "No further questions, Your Majesty." "Good." Ronan dismissed him with a glance. "Spend less time examining my marriage and more time performing your duties." Voss remained alone as Ronan guided me away. "That was brutal," I whispered. "He earned it." Ronan's hand stayed at my back. "And now everyone understands what happens when my authority is challenged through you. How much longer must we remain?" "Two important introductions, then I will remove us." True to his word, Ronan finished the required conversations quickly. I smiled, remembered names, and asked careful questions until my face felt frozen. Eventually, Margaret caught Ronan's eye. She began directing guests toward the dining area, providing us with an opening to leave. We escaped through a side door. The instant it closed, I leaned against the corridor wall. "I cannot believe I survived." "You did more than survive." Ronan stood opposite me. Hadrian was impressed. "Several council members commented on your intelligence." "I should not need your protection. You defended yourself." His expression became serious. "I intervened only when Voss challenged my authority, not yours." He moved closer. "You stood in a room filled with predators who wanted you to fail, and you held your ground." The words calmed a voice inside me that had always insisted I would never be enough. "Thank you," I said, "for allowing me to answer him first." That is what partners do. Partners, not lovers, not mates. The word felt strong rather than empty. Ronan looked down the ancient corridor. "There is something you need to see." He led me away from the public wing. The stone became rougher as we descended into older sections of the palace. No servants or guards appeared. At last, he unlocked an iron-bound wooden door. Beyond it was a circular room, carved from the mountain. A single window opened to the stars. Books, tablets, scrolls, and records covered every wall. "What is this place?" "The Royal Archive." Ronan moved toward a shelf. "It contains the complete history of the monarchy. Every treaty, private law, succession dispute, and secret preserved for 1,000 years. Who may enter?" "The reigning monarch and the consort chosen to share the crown." He handed me an old leather volume. "This records royal marriages. Read." The pages documented generations of kings and queens. Some marriages had been created by mate bonds. Most had not. More than half were political unions, I said, nearly 70%. Ronan returned the book to its place. "The council pretends every royal marriage should be blessed by a mate bond. History proves otherwise." "Why are you showing me this?" "Because they will attempt to make you feel illegitimate." His gold eyes held mine. "You have every legal and historical right to become queen. The moon goddess does not need to approve the match." The weight of history offered a validation I had never expected. Thank you. You requested access to these archives. They are yours. We returned to the royal wing. At the connecting study, Ronan stopped. You did well tonight. So did you. Lord Voss may never recover. He will recover. A faint smile appeared. Then he will begin planning revenge. That is a problem for another day. Ronan hesitated. Sleep well, Raina. He disappeared into his suite. I entered mine to find the bed prepared, candles burning, and food waiting on a tray. I was too exhausted to eat. That night, I slept knowing I had faced the royal court and remained standing. The following 2 weeks passed in a blur. My days began early, with household meetings, lessons in court protocol, and fittings for the coronation gown. I learned which utensils to use during formal dinners, and how to enter a room in a way that commanded attention. I studied royal history, trade routes, alliances, debts, and territorial conflicts. Names and faces became a second language. I attended dinners, teas, diplomatic meetings, and council sessions. Each event was a performance requiring the correct words for the correct person. Ronan remained near me through most of it. He guided me when I needed help and stepped back whenever I could manage alone. We developed silent signals and learned to read each other's expressions. He kept his promises. He never entered my rooms without permission. I received unrestricted access to the archives. When I offered observations about political situations, he listened and often acted on them. We worked well together, but we did not become anything more. Our interactions stayed respectful and professional. Ronan did not speak of Julie unless necessary. I did not ask about the grief that sometimes crossed his face when he thought no one was watching. We protected our walls. Then, 12 days before the coronation, everything changed. I was reading in the royal archive when heavy footsteps approached. Ronan appeared in the doorway. The expression on his face tightened my stomach. We need to speak. That sounds dangerous. It is. He closed the door. I received word from the Eastern Territories. A border dispute has turned violent. 3 packs are close to war. He ran a hand through his hair. I must leave tonight. For how long? At least 2 weeks, possibly longer. The coronation was 12 days away. Will you return in time? That is the problem. Ronan sat across from me. The council recommends postponement. Tradition requires the reigning king to perform the coronation. If the ceremony was delayed, I would remain without official authority during his absence. The court would interpret that delay as proof that legitimizing me did not matter. What if we hold the ceremony before you leave? I asked. Ronan became still. A private coronation tonight. We can conduct the public celebration after you return. He considered the idea. That would grant you legal authority while I am gone. Is it allowed? Yes. Coronations do not need to be public to be binding. Hope appeared. Then we can do it. One complication remains. What? The coronation ritual includes marriage vows. His eyes held mine. You would be crowned as my queen and recognized as my wife at the same time. Marriage. Not an engagement. Not a future plan. A permanent legal bond completed in less than 3 hours. I understand this is not what you expected, Ronan said, but if we do it, it must happen before dawn. I imagined staying in the palace without authority while Voss and the council tested every weakness. This rushed ceremony was protection. Imperfect, strategic, but real. All right. My voice shook. Arrange it. You are certain. I am terrified, but yes. I forced a smile. I have already attended one wedding from the side of the room. I may as well experience my own. Something like gratitude moved through his expression. I will ask Margaret and Commander Thane to witness. The ceremony will take place in the private chapel at midnight. Midnight. Less than 3 hours. What must I do? Be there. Ronan stood. Thank you for understanding. That is what partners do. His smile was brief and genuine. Then he left. I remained among ancient books with my hands pressed against the stone table. In 3 hours, I would marry a king who had promised me everything except love. You survived your family. You survived the court. You will survive this. I had no other choice. Chapter 7. The Midnight Vows. Margaret entered my quarters within minutes. His Majesty explained the change. She moved directly to the wardrobe. We have less than 3 hours to make you resemble a queen being crowned rather than a woman hurried into marriage. She removed a white gown I had never seen. The silk seemed to glow beneath candlelight. It was simpler than the formal coronation dress, but no less beautiful. Silver wolves had been embroidered across the fitted bodice, appearing to move whenever the fabric shifted. When did this arrive? 3 days ago. The king commissioned it as a precaution in case the coronation gown was delayed. Margaret began removing my day dress. His habit of preparing for disaster has finally become useful. It was entirely like Ronan to anticipate complications before they happened. Have you witnessed many royal weddings? I asked. 4. She fastened the white gown, including His Majesty's first. My hands became still. What was his wedding to Julie like? Margaret worked silently for several moments. It was the happiest day of his life and the beginning of his greatest tragedy. Tell me about her. You are entering a marriage unlike theirs. That is why he selected you. Margaret guided me toward a chair and began arranging my hair in soft waves. But you deserve to understand. She pinned back the front sections and began adding small white mountain flowers. Julie was the daughter of a Western alpha. She met Ronan during a diplomatic summit. He had recently inherited the crown. The bond appeared immediately? Yes. Margaret's voice took on the rhythm of memory. Their wedding lasted 3 days. Every pack sent representatives. Julie's gown required 6 months to complete. A faint sadness touched her expression. She was radiant, and Ronan smiled in a way I had never seen before and have not seen since. I pictured a younger Ronan without walls. They had 2 good years together. Julie softened him. The palace became warmer while she lived here. Margaret's fingers paused. Then she became pregnant. Ronan said it was difficult. Difficult is not a sufficient word. Her voice hardened. Julie was delicate. The child consumed her strength from the beginning. She could barely eat or walk. The healers warned that continuing the pregnancy would kill her. They advised ending it. Yes, but she refused. She believed producing an heir was her purpose. Ronan begged her to stop. He told her that her life mattered more than succession. Margaret swallowed. She would not listen. The story felt horribly familiar. A woman measuring her entire value by what her body could provide. What happened? She went into labor after 7 months. It continued for 3 days. Margaret's voice cracked. The boy was born without breath. Julie lived long enough to see him and apologized to Ronan for failing. My eyes burned. She died in his arms. How did he survive? Barely. Margaret stepped back to examine my hair. He locked himself away for weeks. He refused food, visitors, and council business. The court nearly removed him. When he returned, he had changed. All the softness Julie had brought out of him was gone. Margaret looked at me in the mirror. That is the man you marry tonight. Do not expect him to give you romance, warmth, or the dreams young brides carry into marriage. I expect none of those things. Good. If you demand more, you may break your heart against walls that will not move. She opened a velvet box. Inside rested a delicate silver circlet decorated with small diamonds. Julie's coronation crown. I stared at it. Tradition requires the next queen to wear it during the private ceremony. The crown appeared fragile and feminine. It was designed for Julie, Margaret said. It made her look gentle and harmless, exactly as the court preferred. What will my crown look like? The official one is still being forged. Margaret's eyes met mine. It will be stronger. I touched the silver carefully. The crown carried the memory of a woman who had loved Ronan and destroyed herself while trying to prove her worth. I made a silent promise. I would not repeat her mistake. The private chapel lay deep within the oldest section of Stonehaven. Its stone ceiling had been painted like a night sky, with silver stars reflecting candlelight. Ronan waited before the altar with Commander Thane and an elderly priest. He wore ceremonial robes of black and silver. The ancient crown rested on his head, but his face held a tension he could not completely hide. When I entered, his eyes found mine. Whatever emotion rose inside him disappeared behind control. Commander Thane bowed. The priest stepped forward. "Your Majesty, Miss Gates, shall we begin?" "Yes," Ronan answered. "Make it official." It was not romantic. It was not joyful. It was a necessary ritual performed by two people protecting political positions. Exactly as we had agreed. Ronan offered his hand. I took it. "We gather for a sacred purpose," the priest began, "to crown a queen and seal a marriage beneath the moon goddess and pack law." His voice echoed through the chapel. "Though few witness this ceremony, it is fully binding. What is done tonight cannot be undone." He looked at us. "Do you understand?" "Yes," we answered together. The priest spoke ancient words in a language most wolves no longer understood. He called on the goddess to witness us, the spirits of former kings to recognize us, and the mountain to remember our vows. Then he faced Ronan. "Your Majesty, do you accept this woman as queen, wife, and partner? Will you protect her, honor her, and share both crown and burden until death claims you?" Ronan looked directly at me. "I will." The priest turned. "Raina Gates, do you accept this king and crown? Will you rule with justice, protect your people, and stand beside him in peace and war until death claims you?" My voice came clearly. "I will." "Then, by the authority of the moon goddess and pack law, I recognize you as husband and wife, king and queen, bound until the end of your lives." The priest lifted Julie's crown. "Kneel, Raina Gates." I lowered myself onto the cold stone. The priest turned to Ronan. "As reigning monarch, you must crown your queen." Ronan took the circlet. For one moment, his control broke. Grief crossed his face, raw and devastating. He was holding his dead mate's crown above the head of another wife. Whatever his mind understood about duty, his heart saw betrayal. "Ronan," I whispered, "you do not have to." "Yes." His voice was rough. "This is duty. We both understand duty." He placed the crown on my head with extraordinary gentleness. The delicate silver felt heavier than iron. "Rise, Queen Raina," the priest commanded. "Claim your place." I stood. Ronan took my hand, and together we faced our three witnesses. "It is done," he said. His voice had returned to control. "Margaret, prepare the documents for the council. Commander Thane, double the Queen's Guard immediately. She receives the same protection I do." They bowed. The priest brought forward a leather registry containing every royal marriage recorded during the past 1,000 years. Ronan signed. I placed my name beside his. Raina Gates. Queen of all packs. The words carried a weight my name had never possessed. "May the goddess bless your union and reign." The priest closed the book. He departed with Margaret and Commander Thane. Ronan and I remained alone. Husband and wife. King and queen. Two people who had promised almost everything except love. Ronan removed his crown and set it on the altar with more force than necessary. Then he lifted Julie's circlet from my head. "You wore it well." He studied the crown. "Julie would have understood why I did this. I'm sorry." "Don't." He placed the circlet carefully on the velvet. "Do not apologize for circumstances neither of us created." He faced me. "It is not your fault. It is simply complicated." That word feels insufficient. His expression held exhaustion, grief, and perhaps gratitude that I understood. "We are married," he said, as though testing the reality. "We are. How do you feel?" The direct question surprised me. I considered lying. Then I remembered our agreement. Terrified, overwhelmed, relieved that it is completed and that I possess legal protection. I met his gaze. How do you feel? Like I betrayed someone who can no longer forgive me. The answer came raw. Intellectually, I know Julie is gone. I know you deserve this place. I know our decision was necessary. He looked toward the crown, but emotions do not obey reason. I reached out and touched his arm. It was the first time I had initiated contact. You did what survival required. Protecting your kingdom is not betrayal. Is this survival? Bitterness entered his voice. Sometimes it feels like I move through duties without living. I perform the role of king because stopping would force me to feel everything I buried. His vulnerability cracked the careful distance between us. Then perhaps we are both ghosts, I said, performing the roles expected of us because we do not know what else to do. He stared at me. You understand. That may be why this arrangement works. We know what it means to lose something and continue anyway. Yes. For several moments, we stood together in candlelight, two damaged people admitting truths neither wanted to carry alone. I leave at dawn, Ronan said. The council will test you during my absence. I know. You hold complete authority now. If anyone questions it, show them the registry and the law. He hesitated. If the situation becomes dangerous, send for me. I will return. I will be fine. Promise me that you will not take unnecessary risks simply to prove your strength. Unexpected concern warmed his voice. I promise. I held his gaze. And you must promise to return safely. Do not throw yourself into danger, because leaving is easier than facing what happened tonight. Recognition crossed his expression. He knew I had seen through him. I promise. We left the chapel together. Stonehaven felt different, as if the ancient walls recognized that I was no longer a guest. At the connecting doors between our suites, Ronan stopped. This is probably not the wedding you imagined as a child. No. I almost smiled, but it was honest. Is honesty still worth more than romance? Ask me again in a year. His smile was brief and sad. Good night, Queen Raina. Good night, Ronan. He entered his rooms. I removed the white gown and lay awake in bed. I was married. I was queen. Everything had changed in a ceremony lasting less than half an hour. The following morning, my husband would leave me to face the court alone. I remembered the brief ceremonial kiss he had given me. Cold, correct, empty of passion. Nothing like the kiss Carol had given Celeste. But this was not that kind of marriage. It was survival wrapped in white silk and silver. It would have to be enough. At dawn, I walked to the courtyard beneath a heavy cloak. Ronan's traveling party had assembled. Guards and advisors mounted horses while Commander Thane delivered final reports. Ronan wore practical dark clothing. Without the crown, he still appeared unmistakably royal. He left the group when he saw me. You are awake early. I could not sleep. I wanted to see you leave. The Eastern Territories are 4 days away if we ride hard. How long will negotiations take? I cannot predict it. He studied my face. You look exhausted. So do you. Fair. Ronan glanced toward the waiting guards. I must go. I know. Remember what I told you. You are queen. Use the authority. I will. He hesitated. Then he pulled me into a brief embrace. The gesture surprised both of us. His arms felt solid and warm. Be safe, I whispered. You too. He released me and restored the distance between us. A moment later, he mounted his horse and signaled the party forward. Hooves struck the courtyard stones. I watched until the riders disappeared beyond the mountain path. Then I turned toward the palace. The fortress looked beautiful and terrifying, home and prison. I had survived being ignored and discarded. Now I had to survive power. I lifted my chin and walked back inside. I was Queen Raina. It was time to discover what that meant. Chapter 8. The Queen's Trial. The first week of Ronan's absence became an endless series of meetings and challenges. The council gathered every morning under the pretense of briefing me on kingdom affairs. In truth, they were measuring whether I could be trusted with authority. They questioned every decision. They challenged my interpretation of pack law. With exaggerated politeness, they suggested that difficult matters should wait for the king's return. I refused. I cited precedent and made decisions that were legal, practical, and often unpopular. Slowly, several council members began treating me with reluctant respect. Lord Voss did not. He attended every meeting wearing carefully hidden contempt. His questions were designed to expose ignorance. His suggestions undermined me without crossing into open insubordination. Because he remained formally respectful, confronting him would make me appear insecure. It was subtle warfare. On the 8th day, he made his most dangerous move. We sat around the council table beneath ceilings designed to intimidate everyone who entered. Ronan's empty chair stood beside mine. The morning agenda had included trade arguments, border patrols, and spending decisions. Then Voss rose. "Your Majesty, may I present a matter of urgency?" I motioned for him to continue. "News has arrived from your family's territory. Your father has become gravely ill." The words struck like a blow. My father, the man who had taught and disappointed me, then offered me to a king. Still my father. Voss watched my reaction. "His pack requests that you return in case you must say farewell." Around the table, several councillors appeared concerned. Others looked curious. "When did the message arrive?" "Last night." Voss leaned forward. "Of course, the Queen cannot leave the capital during the king's absence without serious consequences." False sympathy filled his voice. Yet a devoted daughter would surely wish to see her dying father, a difficult choice. The trap became visible. If I left, Voss would accuse me of abandoning the kingdom. If I remained, he would call me heartless. What illness? A seizure followed by paralysis. The healers are uncertain he will recover. "I see." Lord Hadrian spoke. "Your Majesty, perhaps a guarded visit can be arranged, brief enough to fulfill your duty as a daughter without leaving the capital unprotected for long." The proposal sounded reasonable. Then I noticed satisfaction in Voss's eyes. He wanted me gone. During my absence, he could convince the council that I lacked discipline and had placed personal feelings above the crown. "No." Voss's eyebrows rose. "I will send the finest royal healers, medicine, supplies, and whatever resources the pack requires." I looked around the table. "But I will not leave Stonehaven while the king is absent." Lady Seraphine stared at me. "Your Majesty, he is your father. And I am queen of every pack." My voice stayed firm. "Thousands of people depend on the stability of the crown. I cannot abandon that duty for one person, even someone I love." I faced Voss. "My family taught me that duty comes first. They will understand." The irony reached everyone. "How cold," Voss said. "One might believe you feel nothing. One might believe I understand leadership." I returned his stare. "If you mistake difficult responsibility for coldness, perhaps your understanding of power is less complete than you imagine." Hadrian smiled briefly. Voss's face hardened. "If that is your decision, it is." I turned toward Commander Thane. "Send the royal healers immediately. Inform my mother that the crown will provide every resource necessary." I stood, ending the meeting. "Unless another emergency requires my attention, we are finished." Council members filed out. Some bows held new respect. Voss's bow held anger. Margaret remained. "That was well done." "Was it?" The question broke from me. "What if my father dies before I see him again?" Margaret's expression softened. "If you had left, Voss would have used your absence to destroy your authority." "I know. It does not make the personal cost easier." "No." I looked at Ronan's empty chair. The last private conversation I had with father involved him ordering me to make myself presentable for a king. If he dies, you will carry that regret. Margaret did not soften the truth. We all carry regrets. At least you will carry yours while protecting a kingdom. 3 days later, the healers reported that father had survived. The seizure had been less serious than first believed. He would need time to recover, but was not dying. Relief nearly weakened my knees. Mother sent a formal letter thanking me for the physicians, while noting that my absence had been discussed. Celeste's letter hurt more. You are queen now, but he is still our father. How could you stay away? I wanted to explain Voss's trap and the fragile state of my authority. They would not understand. Neither Celeste nor Mother had ever been forced to choose between private love and political survival. I placed the letters inside a drawer. The distance between us grew wider. The council's treatment changed after the incident. Even Voss reduced his attacks. I had demonstrated that emotion could not easily manipulate me. I had become the queen the kingdom required. I was no longer certain I remained the daughter my family wanted. On the 15th day of Ronan's absence, Commander Thane burst into the shared study. His usual control had vanished. Your Majesty, come immediately. Cold spread through me. What happened? Raiders crossed the southern border. They killed guards and took hostages. He moved quickly, expecting me to follow. They demand negotiation with the crown. We have less than an hour before they begin killing prisoners. I ran beside him. Who handles this when the king is away? The ranking monarch. Thane looked at me. That is you. The war room held military officers around a table covered with maps. Every face turned toward me. Report. A commander stepped forward. 30 raiders entered a settlement 3 hours ago. 5 guards are dead. 12 civilians were taken, including children. What do they demand? Gold, supplies, and safe passage. If refused, they begin executions at dawn. Dawn was less than an hour away. What options do we have? Forces are nearby, but an attack may kill the hostages. Negotiation could encourage future extortion. The officers waited. Whatever decision I made could save lives or cover the border in blood. What do we know about the raiders? They appear to be survivors of the Shadow Pack. I remembered the records. 15 years earlier, the Shadow Pack had been dissolved after its leaders violated sacred law. Every member had been forbidden from joining another pack. Children, innocent families, and ordinary wolves had been punished alongside guilty alphas. They had survived as outlaws ever since. I will negotiate. Protests filled the room. Absolutely not. Too dangerous. The king would forbid it. The king is not here. My voice cut through them. I am. The room quieted. Commander Thane, how many guards can be assembled within 30 minutes? Perhaps 60. Prepare them in full armor. Keep them visible but at a distance. I turned to the commanders. I will offer the raiders a choice. Release the hostages and submit to legal trials. Those whose crimes involve survival rather than murder may petition to join existing packs. Thane stared. And if they refuse? Then 60 royal guards will be ready. The plan was dangerous, but it combined law with mercy. Do I have your support? The commanders exchanged glances. One by one, they nodded. Then move. We reached the southern border after driving the horses nearly beyond endurance. Dawn painted the horizon in red and gold. The raider camp consisted of rough tents surrounding a central fire. 12 hostages knelt in the dirt, their hands bound. Men, women, and children looked at the royal force with desperate hope. The raiders raised worn weapons. Their leader stepped forward. She was a scarred woman whose eyes held years of hunger and violence. That is close enough, she shouted. Another step and the hostages die. I dismounted before Commander Thane could stop me. I am Queen Raina. I came to negotiate. Shock moved through the camp. You came yourself? You demanded the crown. The king is absent. so I represent it. I walked forward with my hands visible. Stay back. The woman raised a chipped blade. I am unarmed. I stopped a safe distance away. You are survivors of the Shadow Pack. You have lived outside pack protection for 15 years. You cannot hunt, trade, or enter recognized territory. Her expression changed. You are desperate. You believed taking hostages would force the crown to see you. We are dying. Her voice cracked with anger. No pack accepts us. We are hunted whenever we cross a border. We are not monsters. We are survivors. Then submit a petition for reinstatement. We tried. Not to the crown. I kept my voice calm. Pack law permits the monarchy to grant special review in cases of collective punishment and extreme hardship. Suspicion filled her face. What are you offering? Release every hostage immediately and unharmed. I looked across the camp. In return, each of you receives a fair trial. Those responsible for murder will face punishment. Those who committed no serious crime may petition for membership in recognized packs. And if they reject us, then you face the legal consequences of tonight. I took one step closer. But you will face law, not execution in the wilderness. The raiders exchanged uncertain glances. Why should we trust you? The leader demanded. You are a queen, we are nothing. You are pack members caught inside punishments created by leaders who failed you. I held her eyes. That does not erase the guards who died tonight. But the crimes of your former alphas should not automatically condemn every person born beneath their rule. I drew a breath. I am offering what I once needed, someone willing to look beyond what the world calls you and see what you may still become. Recognition entered her scarred face. If we release them, you guarantee safe passage? On my authority as queen. She looked back at her people. 30 exhausted wolves waited. At last, she lowered her weapon. Release the hostages. The prisoners were untied. They ran toward the royal guards, crying and collapsing into waiting arms. The raiders remained where they stood, unarmed and vulnerable, waiting to see whether I had deceived them. I turned toward Commander Thane. Escort our guests to Stonehaven, feed them and provide secure lodging appropriate for prisoners awaiting trial. I raised my voice. Anyone who harms them outside lawful judgment answers directly to me. Thane looked as though he wanted to object. Instead, he bowed. Yes, Your Majesty. I faced the raider leader. What is your name? Kira. You took a serious risk by trusting me. I will not waste it. Her expression remained guarded. You will receive the trials I promised. What happens afterward depends on the evidence and the packs hearing your petitions. Why help us? She asked. We are criminals. Everyone deserves an opportunity for redemption. I looked at the people behind her, especially those the world has already decided are broken. Kira understood that I was speaking about more than the Shadow Pack. Thank you, Your Majesty. Only when I returned to my horse did my body begin shaking. I had resolved a hostage crisis through instinct, law, and dangerous mercy. Perhaps I had saved 12 lives and created a path toward justice. Perhaps I had made a mistake that would haunt my reign. Only time would prove which. We returned to Stonehaven during the afternoon. The hostages reunited with their families. Kira's people were placed in guarded but humane quarters. By the time I washed the road from my skin, the council had called an emergency meeting. Lady Seraphine stood the moment I entered. What you did was reckless. You could have been killed. The king will be furious, another counselor added. The king is not here. I took my seat at the head of the table. I made the decision I believed necessary. You negotiated without consulting the council. I had less than an hour. You offered legal protection to outlaws. I offered trials. My voice remained controlled. Those guilty of murder will face justice. Those punished for someone else's crimes will have an opportunity to prove themselves. Voss watched me. You have created a dangerous precedent. Other outlaws may now believe violence earns favor. Only if they are willing to surrender, face trial, and risk execution for crimes proved against them. I leaned forward. That is not favor, it is law. Lord Hadrian spoke. Your Majesty, the decision was unconventional and dangerous. He paused. But it saved 12 hostages, captured 30 fugitives, and ended the crisis without further bloodshed. Approval appeared in his eyes. That is difficult to dismiss. Several council members murmured agreement. The question, Hadrian continued, is how the king will respond. You acted without his permission. I acted within the full authority granted to the monarch present during a crisis. I held his gaze. If Ronan disagrees, he and I will discuss it privately. I will not apologize for saving lives. Well answered, Hadrian said. Voss remained silent, but for the first time, his expression held more calculation than contempt. The meeting continued for another hour. When it ended, exhaustion made standing difficult. Margaret found me outside. You appear half dead. I feel entirely dead. She guided me toward my rooms. For what it is worth, I believe you chose correctly. Dangerously, but correctly. Remind me of that, if the border erupts into war. You balanced strength with mercy. That is what a queen should do. She stopped at my door. A messenger arrived from the king. He returns tomorrow. My heart tightened. Tomorrow, I would explain everything to Ronan. Tomorrow I would discover whether he saw a strong queen or a reckless stranger who had exceeded her place. I collapsed across the bed without changing clothes. Tomorrow, my husband would judge what I had become in his absence. Epilogue. The Queen's Crown. 8 months passed after the midnight ceremony. 8 months of victories, mistakes, arguments, and lessons. 8 months in which two strangers bound by necessity slowly became partners by choice. The trials of Kira and the Shadow Pact survivors ended successfully. Those responsible for murder received lawful punishment. Most had committed no crimes beyond hunting illegally and crossing forbidden borders to survive. They were accepted into pacts willing to offer new lives. The decision became a landmark throughout the kingdom, a precedent proving that rehabilitation could strengthen the law rather than weaken it. My formal crown was completed. It looked nothing like Julie's delicate circlet. Mine had been forged from silver and black iron. Wolves formed its strongest points, not decorative and harmless, but alert and powerful. It reminded everyone who saw it that I was no longer preparing to become queen. I was queen. Late one autumn afternoon, I sat in the library Ronan had given me. It had become my workspace and refuge. Sunlight passed through tall windows, turning the shelves amber and gold. A blank sheet of parchment waited beneath my hand. I had spent nearly an hour failing to write a single line. The door opened. I did not turn. By then, I recognized Ronan's footsteps and the subtle change in the room whenever he entered. You are staring at that parchment as though it insulted you, he observed. It is mocking me, blank, perfect, and impossible to begin. His hand settled on my shoulder. The touch had become natural during the months since our wedding. What are you trying to write? Our story. I looked down at the page. How we met, how everything began, but every opening feels as though it belongs to someone else. Then do not start at the beginning. Ronan drew a chair beside mine. Begin with the moment something changed. Our knees touched. When was that moment for you? I asked. He considered. The night you negotiated with Kira. I waited. I was riding back to Stonehaven after receiving the report. I was furious that you had placed yourself in danger. His eyes found mine. Then I realized my fear had nothing to do with losing the kingdom's queen. His voice lowered. I was afraid of losing you. Emotion tightened my chest. That was the moment this stopped being a political convenience. For me, it happened during dinner after you returned. I smiled faintly. You did not speak at me as king to subject. You discussed problems with me as though my ideas mattered. They did matter. I understand that now. I looked at the blank parchment. But for months, I expected you to realize you had made a mistake. I waited for the moment you would see what everyone else saw. What did they see? The broken twin, the woman who was not enough. Ronan moved his hand from my shoulder and gently turned my face toward him. Listen to me carefully, Raina. His expression was serious. You are not broken. You are not less than anyone. He spoke each word with deliberate force. You are intelligent, brave, disciplined, and compassionate. You do not need a wolf to be worthy. You never did. But I may never give you an heir. The fear escaped before I could stop it. The healers remained uncertain whether my inability to shift affected fertility. 8 months of marriage had passed without a pregnancy. Every month reopened the old wound. Every king needs succession, I continued. One day you may resent choosing me. Never. The word was absolute. Even if we never have biological children, you are enough. Ronan took my hand and pressed it over his heart. I married you knowing this possibility existed. I chose you because what you bring to the crown matters more than any heir. What about the council? The council may accept reality or discover new employment. Despite myself, I laughed. Ronan did not. I will never allow you to believe your value depends on producing a child. Pain entered his face. Julie died because she believed giving me an heir was the only proof that her life mattered. I will not watch that poison destroy you too. I am not going to die. My voice broke. I am afraid you will regret me. I will not. His grip tightened around my hand. There are other paths. Adoption, fostering, naming a successor. His eyes remained gentle. If we are meant to raise children, we will find a way. If our future contains only the two of us ruling this kingdom, that future is enough. Tears filled my eyes. You are enough, he repeated. A final wall inside me cracked. Say it again. You were always enough. Ronan leaned forward until his forehead touched mine. From the moment you stood in the East Chapel and negotiated with a king while wearing a servant's dress, you were terrifying in your strength. A small smile touched his lips. Every day since then has proved that I chose correctly. I thought you could never love again. So did I. His expression became vulnerable. What I feel for you is not what I felt for Julie. It is quieter. It was built slowly instead of given by a bond. My breath caught. But it is real. He looked directly into my eyes. I love you, Raina. I love your intelligence. I love your courage. I love the way you see possibilities everyone else misses. His smile deepened. I even love that you argue with me and refuse peace when you believe I am wrong. You love me? I do. He spoke like a king making an unbreakable vow. I fought it because I believed loving anyone would eventually destroy me. Then I realized I had already loved you for some time. My tears fell. I love you too. The words felt new and yet inevitable. I believed partnership and respect would be enough. Then you made me feel seen. I touched his face. You made me matter for who I am, not for who everyone expected me to become. Ronan kissed me. It was nothing like the cold kiss from our midnight wedding. This kiss was warm, careful, and filled with promise. 8 months of distance dissolved. When we separated, Ronan was smiling. A real smile transformed his face. I have something for you. He left the library and returned with a carved wooden box. Wolves ran through forests across its lid. I commissioned this months ago, he said. I was waiting for the correct moment. I opened it. A small crown rested on black velvet. It was lighter than my ceremonial crown, but no less strong. Silver formed patterns of strength and grace. Small mountain crystals caught the sunlight. What is it for? For days when you do not want the weight of the formal crown. Ronan lifted it. For private gatherings, quiet moments. Times when you want to remember that you are queen, without performing for anyone. When he turned the crown, I saw words engraved along the inner band. You were always enough. Fresh tears blurred my vision. Ronan, may I? I nodded. He placed the crown on my head with the same reverence he had shown during the midnight ceremony. This time, no grief appeared in his eyes, only love. Perfect, he whispered. My queen, my partner, my love. I rose and stepped into his arms. For the first time, I allowed myself to believe all of it. I was worthy. I was enough. Being broken had never made me worthless. It had made me adaptable. It had taught me to rebuild from fragments. We stood together in the library, surrounded by books and afternoon light. Our love had not been commanded by destiny. It had grown from honesty, respect, and repeated choice. I have a riddle for you, I said. Ronan raised an eyebrow. What grows stronger after breaking discovers truth among its pieces and becomes whole when it accepts that it was never incomplete. He considered. Then understanding warmed his face. Us, I agreed. We are the answer. I like that. He brushed a loose strand of hair behind my ear. Although I should warn you that I intend to ask you to marry me again tonight. We are already married. I know. He kissed my forehead. But I want to continue choosing you every day. I will keep asking, and you may keep saying yes. Perhaps I will ask you sometimes. Even better. He kissed my nose and then my lips. Equal partners in everything, including proposals. Beyond the library windows, Stonehaven stretched toward mountain peaks, touched with early snow. The kingdom below was imperfect, difficult, and ours to shape. I remembered the frightened woman I had been 8 months earlier. She had believed she was broken because she could not shift. She had watched her twin marry her mate and assumed every possibility of happiness had disappeared. The woman I had become remained imperfect. I was still learning, but I no longer feared being seen. Thank you, I said. For what? For seeing beyond what I could not do. I rested my head against him. For giving me the opportunity to prove what I could become. For loving me even after you swore you would not. Thank you for being worth loving. Ronan drew me closer. And for teaching me that survival is not the same as living. We remained together as afternoon became evening. Later, we would discuss council reports, trade problems, and every practical duty filling our lives. Later, Ronan would ask me to marry him again. I would say yes. For that moment, we simply existed. A king who had loved, lost, and found the courage to love differently. A queen who had been called worthless and finally chose not to believe it. Together, we had found a home. Not in the stone walls of Stonehaven. In honest conversations. In shared silence. In respect that became friendship, and friendship that became love. The woman without a wolf had become queen. The king who believed his heart was dead discovered it could heal. Our story began with survival and grew into belonging. I removed the small crown and placed it carefully inside its box beside the blank parchment. Tomorrow, I would write our story. That night, I would simply live it beside the man I had married from necessity and loved by choice. My partner, my king, my home. Together, we had learned that the strongest magic was not shifting, destiny, or even a mate bond. It was choosing, every day, to recognize another person's worth. That was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything.